My name's Mark James. I'll be your host today, and I have with me Ben Boykin of the Rock Church in San Diego, California. Hello, Ben.
How are you?
I'm great, and so glad to have you with us. Give the folks that are watching this video a little of your background. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so background in engineering. I've got a couple of degrees from a school called RPI, so Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Right, I've got an electrical engineering degree, a master's in management from there, as well as an International MBA. So over my career, focused in kind of cybersecurity networking space, working with Global 5000s and our U.S. federal nations and alliances, right, groups. So done that over the past 20 plus years, right? You're talking about the biggest networks in the entire globe, talking to 3, 4, 5-star generals, et cetera. So taking those kind of experiences and been able to kind of translate that into what we're doing at the Rock Church in San Diego. And just a little bit about me from a Christian experience, 12 years old, received the Lord and got baptized in a small church in Virginia. And throughout my career, I've just seen God do tremendous things. I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in now, and a lot of different jobs, right? The Lord told me to go left when I was fighting tooth and nail to stay in engineering, and said, no, I have something else for you, and just seeing the blessings from following kind of his call. So that's a little bit about me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I was impressed as I looked over your bio and background, so I really appreciate that. So we don't need to talk about the world changing because everyone in the world knows that it has.
Right.
Can you just give folks a little background on the Rock Church, and how long have you been doing virtual? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so background on the Rock Church, been in San Diego, right, 20 plus years, just had a, anniversary earlier this year, right? So we're a do something church, so focused on the community. We just celebrated Easter Sunday, right? And we were on, a news program where they were out there allowing to give us a platform outside of even digital about what we're doing in the community, right? And so, we've been doing the online platform for a couple of years at this point. And so we've been blessed, right? The team before I started had the foresight and the vision to say, we need to do something online, right? This is a global world that we live in. We see people log in globally every Sunday. And like you said, in this new kind of COVID era, you've got to change, right, of how you can push out that message. And we've seen about 4 times the amount of attendees to our service. So it's just amazing.
Wow.
That's past 4 weeks.
Wow, that's amazing. 4 times.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
From that, we've got over 100,000 people literally plugging in on Sunday to get the word, right? And we see that from, San Diego perspective. I think there's a lot of folks that don't know the Lord and are looking for some comfort, right? And don't know, your pocketbook isn't going to comfort you in this time. This is, with COVID in the air, right? Some around San Diego, you can't go out. Right. And so now I think people are looking for, it's the social distancing, what our pastor says all the time, you've got to do it based on what the government's saying, but emotional distancing, you don't have to. And so that's a way that we're doing it through our digital evangelism platform.
Great. I like the emotional distancing comment. That's good. So, you had the foresight, the team, leadership, you're a couple years at it. Talk about COVID-19 hits. Did you have to do anything different than what you were already doing to handle the virtual space, or is this right now business as usual for you?
It's not business as usual. So I started earlier. I started earlier this year, and our world within how we are delivering digitally has definitely changed, right? So there's a lot of things that are similar, but it's the scale. And, our pastor has a pastor's call with local pastors and other global pastors about how they can get online. So, I've been attending kind of those forums and that helping them with, a church that might have 250 folks and go, how do I get online? How do my parishioners get the word? How do I use, whether it's Facebook Live or it's YouTube, et cetera. So we've got a great team in the back end because we've got a couple years experience doing this. One, helping others out that just haven't delved into this space, first of all. And then second, it's just the scale, right? So we're just seeing, when you're used to seeing, 23 to 25,000 folks online per Sunday, and we can now get that in one service. There's changes that have to be made, right? We have to have more host moderators, just the engagement piece. And we've got a, online pastor that focuses on that and now has had to scale that out. So as folks are coming into our platform, they're getting ministered to, right, throughout the entire service, right? If you want live prayer, you have the ability to do that, right? There's a lot of, the Lord says we shouldn't be fearful, but guess what? There's a lot of fear out in the city and throughout the world with COVID-19 being out there. And so, you kind of can see the folks of what their prayer requests are. And we're able to then have moderators literally take those prayers and walk them through. What are you dealing with, right? There's a lot of folks dealing with financial, situations, whether they're not working or, schools are now, closed a lot of places. So again, you start seeing that, and then I'm also on an incident response team within the county as well, right? Where we get kind of updates of what's happening. And, what we hear and see from San Diego County is that, domestic violence, 50% more calls, to 911, the amount of suicides has gone up 50%. So, our city within San Diego needs God and the world does, and that's this way that we can use this digital platform to, again, get the word out. And, when you have the Lord in your heart and who's in control, God's still in control, right? But there's a lot of folks that don't know that. And that's the reason why, I think we see just this uptick, and especially there's not a lot to go do. The distractions that folks could have on a weekend are very limited when you can't go out, right? You still have things on TV, the internet, et cetera. But having that comfort, we're able to do that, right? Through worship, through the word. We have online demand where we can do that as well. So those are some of the things that we see from our platform perspective, but absolutely not, definitely not status quo, right? It is a changing world, and it is, every week there is something that's just new that we need to do, right? From watch parties, we have a platform to do it from Facebook. We now have watch parties for, kids groups, right? So we now have special, watch parties so the kids can get something out of, the message, right? So again, just trying to hit all the needs within our community.
That's rich. I heard a lot of cool tips. I'm going to come back to a couple of things that you mentioned here before we finish up. But why don't we, the Rock Church, there's going to be a lot of people listening to what you're talking about, and they may be in a smaller church. They may not have even contemplated going virtual until COVID-19. Right. Can you sort of bring it back, and if I'm that church or technology individual in that church or a pastor in that church, what should I be thinking about to create a good virtual experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. So one, we say it's the engagement piece, right? So the technology can be easily done, even if it's from, your handheld device, right? And if there's any small churches that are out there that need help, we're willing to help, right? We've got calls where we're going through that. We've got different online pastors that can take you through that, because we do have a couple years under our belt, right? And we've seen this kind of mass onslaught right now when it comes to COVID-19. So if anybody needs help, again, we're a Do Something Church. We're willing to help you out from that perspective. But we see as the engagement piece, and what we do as well. We've got, being a big church, we have a lot of folks that are within our church digital walls. So from that, we're picking up the phone as well and saying, what are your needs? And maybe it's easy as, if you're in a small church, it's setting up a new email account where it's like, if you need something, right? I mean, we hear it within the press, if you're waving to your neighbor, et cetera, where it's paper products, they don't have it. We have a program now where, again, we're out helping the community, right, with those needs. So it could be something easy as that, right? If someone goes, I'm running out of toilet paper, for our elderly, that, again, this could be devastating, right? Deathly for those from a COVID-19 perspective. You want to keep them indoors. I think of my, parents that live on the East Coast, right? They've got neighbors bringing over supplies, just being neighborly, right? But that's what we're supposed to be doing in the kingdom, right? Is not letting anyone not know and see the light that shines through us. So from there, you can do just simple things like that. And you don't have to guess to your community's needs, right? And to your parishioners' needs. It's kind of going, hey, if you need a meal, et cetera, right? There's people within the church walls that are, folks that right now financially are struggling. There's some that are financially struggling, right? And, we hear all the time, it's like, how can I help? Something we're doing right now is, we've got over 300,000 N95 masks that we're repairing. Right. I think yesterday we did up to 70,000. Right. So, if you're local in San Diego, you go to our website, there's a way to volunteer. There's a way to volunteer to, as we're providing groceries and delivering meals, and we're doing that to first responders all around San Diego County, right. To those doctors and, nurses that are putting their lives on the line to help and heal us back. When it comes to COVID, we have a way to go do that and do the contactless, here's your meal, right? So, I think there's a lot of things that can be done and partnerships, because, a lot of restaurants, some of them are struggling right now, right? So we've done some programs where it's like, some of the vendors that will deliver have said, if it's for the church, we'll deliver for free, and we're focusing them to those restaurants, right, that are struggling. So those are some of the things that I think small churches can do, and that's within your community, right? You don't have to be a big church to do that. You can do that and definitely, something that we say, rock your city, right? It's just, how do you literally do something and show, how great God is?
There was a lot in there. I hear you saying, if I'm another church, size doesn't matter, but if I really haven't been doing virtual, I hear you saying, hey, one of the things you can do is connect with your members, your attendees, et cetera. That's one.
Yep.
I think that's great. And two, I hear you talking about creating a forum of engagement that allows people to know needs and then take care of the needs. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things was one of the initiatives for my team is, we just started this website called WePray247.com. And that is basically get your church involved, right? I mean, you can sign up your church and it's how to get in the presence of God in a 24/7 basis, and have your church members all focus on a goal, right? And it's 15-minute windows where now, again, you are part of a community, right? And again, a community that's doing that and bigger from that. And again, if you're a smaller church, we are a church that has, many hands, and we would love to help and partner with, all the ones that are struggling, right? Because there's some things where people go, I don't even know how to get on the Facebook Live. I don't even know how to start a YouTube. Yeah, we've got Zoom calls that we do one-on-one with churches. We've done multiple Zoom calls. We'll help you figure out how to set it up, right? What that file needs to look like so that it's got great quality. But again, I was on a pastor's call this week when our pastor said, take your phone, video, yourself. It doesn't have to be, this elaborate, again, get the word out, and connect and engage. I mean, I think the engagement piece is the hugest piece for us, and we can do that from our digital platforms in a lot of different ways. But again, you can set, and not a lot of money, right? I mean, these things are free. If you already have an email, address, et cetera, right? If you don't want to open up a new one, you just go, this one's going to be dedicated for my community's needs, right? And for your church's needs. And then you now, how do we prioritize that? And we've got, stewardship group that's doing that. We've got other pastors, we have different campuses. So, we're having campus pastors do some of that. And again, if you're a small church and you kind of go, look, I need to, one, how do I connect? Like you said, how do I engage with them? And then how do you have people that want within your church to participate and volunteer, right? It doesn't have to be this 1, 2, 3-man woman band, right? It allow people to say, raise their hand and go, I want to help, right? And there's definitely, we see it all the time. There's more than enough needs in this COVID era, right? Where people can help.
So you've now, encouraged the churches, take your phone, whatever device of your choice, let's get engaged. I'm sure there's maybe a couple tips. Maybe you have even told Miles some of these tips that when he's doing it to create a better virtual experience. Any top 1 or 2 suggestions you'd give people that are newer to the virtual world?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty data driven, right, from a technology perspective. So when I was at a very large technology company last year, and we were sitting around church sizes of all size, and we were focused on what are the, kind of top needs when people look up churches. I'll give you kind of the top 3, 4 that were discovered, right? One is, and I talked about a little bit about it earlier, one is relationship, right? Relationships at this point are being stressed, right? If you're married, if you're divorced, if you're dating, etc., if you're single, relationship with, social distancing is stressed. It's having a message around that. Suicide, another thing, when people are looking up churches, that is one of the top 3 searches that are there. I don't want to be part of the world, right? You hear it on the news nightly here. Where I live in San Diego, someone committed suicide literally a week ago. And, and within our church walls, we have folks that are struggling, so having messages around those areas, right? And then the third is prayer, right? And some people don't know how to pray. Some people have never been to church, right? So it's great to talk to and focus on folks that, it's like, I grew up in church, my background is I grew up my entire life in church. There's other folks that I meet I've never been to church. I didn't really believe in this, right? And it's how to minister to those. And we do it every time, the pastor does it when he closes out. It's just say in your heart and the ABCs of how to do that. and how to receive Jesus, right? And how to become a Christian. I think it's just so key when you're doing the messages from the technical side. Again, have some good lighting, right? So that folks can see you. And these are all things that we can walk people through if they need it, right? So from a lighting perspective, from, what kind of file size that you're there with. And again, it's just, to me, it's the engagement piece, right? Your video doesn't have to be, if you're giving a good message, your video doesn't have to be crystal clear, right? It's great. It's better if it is, right? So people will engage. But again, it's if you're addressing and touching the heart of those that are watching and listening, to me, from this digital age, that is where, again, how we can expound on and increase the kingdom, right? And get those that are lost, that one lost sheep, how do you bring them back in the fold? Because there's millions, right? Billions throughout the world. So.
That it struck me at the very beginning of our conversation, you stressed online hosts.
Yep.
Online hosts being in the background and engaging with the online audience. Just briefly speak into that. That struck me as interesting and valuable.
Yeah, so the host piece we believe is critical and is seen as critical, right? You never know who's online searching for something, and those hosts are engaging. So, for us, in our experience, when you go to online.sdrock.com and catch, one of our, 4 Sunday services, you'll see moderators and hosts. And as you're coming onto our platform, you'll see they'll go, "Hey, Ben, how are you doing? Hey, Bob, hey, Jill, hey," welcoming you too, and then just saying, does anybody have a prayer request? Is anybody in need of something? And we've seen that, right? I've seen last Sunday, I saw, someone that was a nurse at a smaller clinic here in San Diego County going, "We need masks, we've run out," right? And we're not a large hospital, and there's across the country and world, a lot of the bigger organizations are struggling. So imagine what the small clinic is doing. And it was like, how do I get some masks as we're helping our community? And it was like, yeah, let's have a chat, we got them connected with, again, some of the masks that we're fixing, right? That I talked about earlier. So I think the moderator piece, and again, as people start feeling part of that community, they want to come back, right? All of a sudden those moderators go, "Yeah, I remember you from last, oh, I prayed for your daughter. Oh, I prayed for your father that had X, Y, and Z." And now you start having this church online, a bonding, a community that we don't have to be in the same physical walls. We're all in the presence of God, focusing on each other's needs and how we serve, each other, right? And so that is critical to, again, making sure that person that comes on that's in needs doesn't go commit suicide, right? I mean, we've seen some of those. I mean, we had something a couple weeks ago where someone goes, because of that prayer, and then it's the follow-up, right? The phone tree that I was talking about, we notate that. It's not just a one and done. It is I talked to this person, we got their information, their email, their phone number. How you doing today? How are you doing with losing your job, not being able to go out your house, and your parents sick across the country, right? Let me pray for you. Is there something we can provide for you? Do you need toiletries? Do you need, a meal, etc.? And to me, that's what we focus at, and that's what our pastor has us focusing at as a Do Something Church, right? It's not about what we believe are your needs, but actually hearing the needs and then meeting them. And so that's what I would say, those moderators are critical in doing that, right? Because as people come in, they're jumping at this point when they do the digital experience. They'll look at you. If you don't engage, it's like, well, it's a computer screen. I'll click and go to somebody else. That engagement piece is like, well, this is different, right? Someone just called me by name. Someone is caring about my needs. So I think that's why, and great pickup, that is why we have, stressed and made sure we had enough. So as I said, as we start seeing this 3-4x times of folks within our online platform, we had to get more moderators and train them up and to say, hey, these are the things that look. So we have a ongoing training process that our online pastor does every week, right? But again, you can get people from your own church group that are going, waving my hand. Hey, I might not want to go outside because I'm doing social distancing. I can get on the computer and pray for somebody all day. I can check and on that person. So that's what we're doing. And those are the kind of the last thoughts I would have on that. I would say, the last thing that we're trying to do is expand the kingdom. And so I think, we've had some brainstorm sessions internally, and I would just urge others to do the same, where it's not just, I'm placing a sermon out on the web, right? Or I'm streaming a sermon. We are doing things. So I think what we haven't touched on, and I'll touch on a little bit, is just whether it's your Bible study, right? Using platforms like Zoom are great for that, right? And allows people to connect. And so having your leaders internally start those type of, whether it's courses, we've got ministry courses that we're offering that used to be at cost that we're offering for free. Any of those type of engagement, because there's some people that have lost their jobs and are looking for something to do and are looking for the word. They might not be knowing that they're looking for the word, but they need the word. And having different avenues for, their families, which could be your mom and your dad, your children, having those different avenues and places to go is a help. So I want to urge everyone that sermons are great, but there's more that you can do, with the online and digital evangelism, and you can definitely have that engagement. And then, if you're doing that, we're doing those type of things weekly, right? So men's ministry, women's ministry, all the things that you are doing in your church, a lot of that can translate to the digital side. And, when you have platforms like, Zoom offering it for free, again, that's no cost to your organization. And it's an easy way for people to connect. And again, especially during the social distancing, we want to show that the church is not about emotional distancing. We're about here helping and serving the community.
So Ben, really, really good information. And you've mentioned throughout your conversation with us today, resources that the Rock Church has. Could you just make it very clear to anyone viewing this conversation, what's available, where to find it?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Rock Church, we're a Do Something Church. And if you want more information, you can easily text info to 52525. Within that, you will see a list of resources. And again, you'll have a way to connect with myself and the team from those links. And we would love to help any church that's trying to get online. I've done tons of calls with other technology teams that are trying to learn, that are using some of the same platforms. If you want platform recommendations, the team can give you that as well. But definitely info to 52525. That's
a good word. I really, really like that. And I've seen some good and some opportunities for improvement out in the virtual space. But the good news is the church is engaging, and it's great to see. So we thank you on behalf of Sharing Hope and Medi-Share. We really appreciate you taking the time today. God bless, and have a wonderful day. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks. God bless.